Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian M. Hauser. It is good to be back with you all after a little hiatus yesterday. We've got it's called extended school year for my son, summer school to some, but extended school year for him, and schedules, trying to get everything figured out. Did not end up getting into an episode yesterday. One thing I will always promise you is I will only do shows when I want to do the show. I will never feel obligated to do a show. And that might surprise you knowing how often I do these shows, but I do really enjoy it. And I want to make sure every time I'm on here, it's because I want to be. So yesterday just was not a good one to do it. And excited to be back with you today as we continue our march through the NFC West of every single position group ranked from 1 to 4, best to worst. Today on the docket will be the safety room. And this is an interesting one where I think there's a team I have in mind going into it that I expect to finish first that has not yet finished first in a ranking. But I don't know. We'll find out what we see when we look at the data. And I've, had some fun conversations with folks in comments and online. Fun might be, subjective to some people here that, people arguing about whether the running back room rankings I've had are good or bad, arguing about whether the Seahawks edge room should be higher than third. Someone, I think I was in a protracted discussion with somebody yesterday who was clearly a Cardinals fan who think it's an absolute joke that the running backs for the Seahawks were ranked first in my rankings. Anyway, there was someone else when I was doing interior offensive line. I think they said that I was focused too much on PFF grades. All of it I listen to. I enjoy the conversations. It's all good back and forth about something that doesn't really matter in the end of the day. It's just football. But today we will certainly be looking at more than PFF rankings as we get back to a position group that actually has some data that you can look at. It's a little tougher with offensive linemen to get the data you really want and to get objective data, but we're going to get back to it with safeties. And then I think it'll be tomorrow, assuming things are normal. We'll do the final ranking of the quarterbacks in the division, and looking forward to doing that one as well. If you have not already given the show a like and click subscribe, now is a great time to do it. Go ahead and go to patreon.com/hawkblogger, sign up, get access to the ad-free version of this show, as well as access to the Discord channel and verification at hbtix.com, hbtix, the only place where you as a Seahawks fan can make sure you are selling your seats to a Seahawks fan. In fact, Evan Hill, you guys all know Evan. He and 3 buddies are going to be here for the season opener against the 49ers. And if anyone has tickets for that game that they'd be interested in having Evan sit in with his friends, let me know. I'll connect you guys. For right now, I'm going to point him at hbtix.com. But last year, there was a patron who had some seats, and Evan and Jeff were able to join them. And so if anybody wants to potentially be sitting on or around Evan Hill during the Seahawks home opener, let me know. I'll see what I can get set up for you and for him. All right. So before I get into the rankings and safeties and the data and all that stuff, which we'll get to in a second, there's a little bit of news, and I wanted to go through, and you've probably heard about this by now, but the Seahawks quarterback, Sam Darnold, proposed last night to his girlfriend, now fiance, and she said yes. So we've got another wedding in the works. So congratulations to Sam, and I think Bailey is her name. But he wasn't alone. Apparently, Mr. Bobo, Jake Bobo, also proposed to his girlfriend, now fiance, Mackenzie. I actually had a chance to meet Mackenzie and Jake at an event earlier this year, and she was fantastic. They seemed so good together, and so really happy for the two of them. So that's 2 proposals on the same day. I don't know if the quarterback and the receiver planned this or not, but the other piece that I thought was kind of cool to see is they're all together right now. So you remember all these off-season it's, pictures and videos of Russ throwing to guys and Geno throwing to guys. Well, here you got a picture here of Eric Saubert, the tight end, AJ Barner, JSN, Cody White, and then you've got Jake Bobo looking ripped, Cooper Kupp. I think that's John Rice Plumlee and Sam Darnold. And so cool to see these guys coming together. I'm guessing this is in SoCal. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about looking at these guys together is AJ Barner being there, man. Like, I think it's so critical. I think he can be such a big part of what the team does this year. Cody White being there, I think, is smart. I think Cody White has an opportunity that people may be surprised to see. This is Eric Saubert. There's John Rice Plumlee. I believe that's John Rice Plumlee and Cooper Kupp. So, we'll see. But I'm really eager to see AJ Barner take that next step, and happy to see that he's down there with Jake Bobo, with Sam Darnold, and that they're working. Like, that's great. That is great to see. Now, one more thing before I get into the rankings. Also, we had a new update from PFF. They did their overall offensive line rankings. And, as we do, we come to check. I did separate interior offensive line versus tackle rankings. And, I think I gave a rough explanation of where my rankings were of the NFC West offensive lines at the end of the interior offensive line episode. You can find that. I've got a playlist of all of the NFC West ranked episodes. So, anyway, this is where PFF ends up. So you look for the top NFC West offensive line, and you get to the San Francisco 49ers at number 12. What they say there is Trent Williams remains the leader of the San Francisco offensive line, but the soon-to-be 37-year-old won't be able to do so forever. For the first time in 5 seasons, he ranked outside the top 2 offensive tackles. He also missed significant time due to injury. The group is still above average, especially considering Dominic Pooney's emergence. Okay. All right. I mean, I think I'm not going to push back too much on that. I think it's going to end up being I think they're going to overrank the 49ers based on the fact that I think Trent Williams is not going to play that much. But that said, the next ranked offensive line in the NFC West for them was the 15th ranked Los Angeles Rams. Now, this one, I don't know, man. This felt a little lazy to me and maybe not paying attention. So they write, the Rams re-signed Alaric Jackson in free agency, earned a career high 78.4 overall grade. His efforts and elite run blocking from Kevin Dotson and Rob Havenstein should make this unit good enough to allow the Rams to reach its potential. Did you hear Alaric Jackson's got blood clots and may not play? Did you hear Rob Havenstein had surgery on both shoulders? So I don't know. I feel like this one is a little bit. I don't actually argue that much with the ranking, but if Alaric Jackson doesn't play, I don't think this is a top 15 offensive line. Then you've got the Arizona Cardinals at 16, right behind them, and they called it an underrated unit. They talk about Jonah Williams signed in free agency last year. Talk about Paris Johnson making a big leap. And they talk about the question marks at the guard positions, but Yalte Froholt, the center, which I've talked about being the best center in the division, had a very good run blocking grade. So they have the 3 NFC West offensive line rankings are Arizona, LA, and San Francisco between 12 and 16. So they're in the top essentially half of the league. If you want to see the Seahawks, you got to scroll and scroll and scroll. They get no benefit of the doubt heading into this season. What they write about the Seahawks at 30th out of 32 teams, there's not much to suggest that the Seahawks won't again field a bottom tier offensive line. Seattle used its first round pick on Gray Zabel, who is projected to start at left guard. However, a rookie who played at the FCS level last season is unlikely to provide a significant upgrade to a unit that allowed the second highest pressure rate in 2024. Well. We see this differently, PFF. We really, really do. I am looking forward to this being one of the stories of the season. I will do an episode where I get into a little bit more detail on this, but if you've been listening, you know that for me, I think the Seahawks offensive line is not going to just be better. I think the Seahawks offensive line is going to be good. And I've said that multiple times. It's all out there on record. I can look like an absolute fool for saying it, but I think there's a lot of reasons why the Seahawks offensive line is going to be a heck of a lot better than the 30th in the NFL. I also understand why no outside group or inside group would give them the benefit of the doubt, given how bad that offensive line has been for how long. All right. So as we settle back into our episode focus today, getting into the NFC West ranked, let's recap where we are so far. So you got all the different rankings to date. And offensively, the Rams, number one for wide receivers. They were number one for interior offensive line. The Seahawks finished first for running backs, for interior defensive line, and for cornerbacks. The 49ers have finished first for tight end, for offensive tackles, for edge, and for inside linebackers. So 49ers have the most first place finishes. Cardinals have yet to have one. That may change today. And then the other piece that I've kind of updated is the Cardinals have the most fourth place finishes. They are they're dead last in receiver, offensive tackles, edge, and inside linebackers. And people might argue about the offensive tackle ranking, but that's where I've got them. And then the other team that has a decent amount of fourth place finishes is the 49ers. Running back is the most controversial. And if CMC is healthy and plays well, then that's going to look ridiculous, 100%. But I'm not sure I believe that that's what's going to happen. In fact, I don't. That's why he is where he is. Interior defensive line, they are last, as well as cornerback, they are last. So the 49ers, interestingly, have the most first place, but they also have the second most last place so far as we go through these rankings. What I'm going to do when I wrap this all up is I'm going to assign some weighted values to each of these position groups, give people score points for first, second, third, fourth place finishes, and then I'm going to add them all up. I'll show it to you. So we will kind of get a rough ranking of where these teams sit heading into training camp. All right. Let's get into it, folks. The first thing we do here when we get into looking at a new position group is we familiarize ourselves. Who is in the position across the NFC West? Then I'm going to go and look at some stats related to that position, in this case, safeties. And then we will look at what other external evaluators have for rankings. We'll look at PFF rankings for safeties. We will also look at Mike Clay's rankings for safeties in the NFC West. All right, so who plays safety in this division? Let's start with the 49ers. 49ers. Now, this is going to be a complicated aspect of this evaluation. So Malik Mustafa is a 49ers starting safety. He tore his ACL in the last game of the season last year. It's not clear when he's going to be back. He's pretty good. He had a good rookie season, and I would think very differently about this 49ers safety room if he was cleared to play. He is not yet. So I'm going to largely set Malik Mustafa aside and grade the guys that are available, at least right now. That would be Jair Brown, who has been a starter. He's entering his third season. I think it's his third season. Richie Grant, a free agent signing from Atlanta. Jason Pinnock, a free agent signing from the Giants. Marcus Siegel, a speedy safety rookie. And George Odom. Those are the guys that we'll have at least some conversation about for the 49ers. For the division champ Rams, the Rams run the pair of cams. They have the cams out there. Cam Curl, the former free agent from the Commanders, as well as Cam Kitchens, the second-year safety from University of Miami. They also have Jalen McCullough, who played a decent amount last year, Tanner Engel, and some other guys that I think are not likely to be part of the team. With the Arizona Cardinals, they have Budda Baker, who everybody knows. They have Jalen Thompson, who less people know, but they should know. They have I believe, second-year player in Dadrian Taylor Demerson, who is a pretty good rookie last year. Former Seahawk Joey Blount, who is primarily a special teams guy, but also is a decent safety. Those are the guys that I think are most worthy of getting some attention for today's episode. Then we go to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks have Julian Love. They have Kobe Bryant, who transitioned to being a starting safety middle of last year and enters the year as the expected starter there. Behind them, now this is an interesting aspect. They've got Nicky Manwari, who was their high pick in the second round. He is primarily going to be playing nickel. You could count him as a corner. I'm kind of counting him as a corner and a safety. Primarily he's going to be playing, at least to start with, a role that is similar to what Rayshon Jenkins had last year, or somewhat a Kyle Hamilton role. He'll play a lot near the box, sometimes look like a linebacker, but essentially be a safety in that thing. So we'll include Nicky Manwari in this evaluation. And then there's Jarek Reed, who has been a really good special teams player, came off an injury last year, now back to full health. And then DeAnthony Bell is worth including as well, the free agent signing from the Browns, who's a great special teams player and a big hitter, had a nice OTA and minicamp. Ty Okada belongs on the list as well. He played a decent number of snaps last year for the Seahawks. So the Seahawks have a number of players who have either gotten snaps or are likely to get snaps. It's going to be a pretty competitive room for your Seahawks. All right. So that's the quick round robin of who's in the division. Now let's look at Field Vision Pro. And for people that say, man, Brian he just looks at PFF data all the time. Like, I don't think that's really true. Where there's data to look beyond PFF grades, I will always look there. And so this is a 2x2 grid on Field Vision Pro that has safeties in the NFC West from last season. Their targeted EPA per 100 is on the vertical axis, and in I believe, yeah, I think that higher is better. I'm double checking that. We've had some issue on Field Vision Pro before. Target success rates is on the horizontal axis. So this is confusing for a second because, yeah, I think lower left is better. Let's take a quick look at this. For a second, I'm gonna pull in another Field Vision Pro window so I can look at this. But logically, you want negative EPA for each target. So I'm going to take a quick look on this to see at all safeties, and we're going to look at who had the best targeted EPA. I think that's correct. But it's a little bit confusing, to be honest. As I'm looking through this, let's look at, maybe not. Okay. So I think the way this is looking, based on what I'm seeing, targeted EPA, you want to be higher. Targeted success rate, you want to be the left. So I think that's right. This is a little confusing. Sorry, folks. This is what you get for doing things in real time. A little bit confusing here, but if you look at success rate, Jalen Thompson had the best performance in terms of success rate. Let's see. Cam Kitchens was second best in targeted success rate, and Cam Curl was third. Now, this is making me really question whether this is accurate. So I'm going to look right now. I'm going to take a detour and look at PFF grades for a second. And I'm going to look at not just grades, but coverage coverage grades for safeties, and they don't have EPA, but they should have something approximating success rates. And so I'm going to look here. Yeah, like Kirby Joseph was number 1 in coverage grade for PFF. And when I looked at EPA per 100, he was number 1. That was the higher number. So I'm walking my way through this, guys, just double checking a couple things here. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that what you want to see is higher and left. I think those are likely the best, but it's possible that it's higher and right. So with that being the case, this makes a little bit more sense. I think you're talking about Julian Love and Jair Brown in the top right as 2 of the higher performers. Malik Mustafa, well to the right as a good performer, but again, injured, and so it doesn't necessarily fit into this. If you look at Kobe Bryant, he is up there in the top right quadrant with Julian Love in terms of both EPA per 100 and success rate. And then Jalen McCullough is a guy who I honestly hadn't spent as much time with, but played over 300 snaps last year. And he had a decent performance, ranked 5th in success rate as well as 1st in EPA per 100. Quentin Lake, who is actually a slot corner, so I'm not going to really count Quentin Lake. They play him at slot. It's the cams that are actually Cam Kitchens and Cam Curl who are there. Budda Baker all the way down here in EPA per 100 and success rate. Let's look at some other numbers that they've got. Pass breakups versus stops. This is maybe a more clean look. It should be the higher. It's definitely top right quadrant. No doubt about it that's better. And on the horizontal axis, you're looking at essentially run stops. So this is how good you are in contributing to run defense as a safety. And then the vertical axis is pass breakups. So the higher, the better. Budda Baker, far and away the most stops of any safety in the division. He had 55 stops. The next closest was Julian Love with 29. So Budda Baker clearly separating himself in terms of being a run defender as well as a good coverage player as well. Julian Love had the most pass breakups among any safety in the division with 7. Then you've got Quentin Lake. Again, we're going to not focus on Quentin Lake since he really is a slot corner. Jair Brown was 3rd in pass breakups and 3rd, if you take out Quentin Lake, 3rd in stops. So Jair Brown had a decent year in that regard. There's some folks that think he might lose his starting job. There's also some question about him from an injury perspective, but we'll see. After that, Cam Curl was 2nd among the safeties in the division in pass breakups with 6. So he's after Julian Love. Kobe Bryant was, what would it be? It would be 4th in stops. That's actually shocking. Given that Kobe Bryant played so few snaps, only started for about half a season, for him to rank 4th among NFC West safeties and stops is pretty impressive. And the fact that he was also then 5th in pass breakups is also pretty impressive. The guys kind of bringing up the rear here. Jalen Thompson had 0 pass breakups. That's surprising to me. I think of Jalen Thompson as a pretty darn good player. Jalen McCullough had 0. He did have a number of stops. Cam Kitchens had the fewest stops of any of the players listed here. And then Malik Mustafa is up there as well. Let's take a look at, this is more of a coverage number, snaps per reception and snaps per target. So the more snaps per reception is better. So you see Malik Mustafa is way up here, up and to the right. And again, we're kind of going to discount him being available. And so that makes Kobe Bryant, of the guys there, the guy that was really best in coverage from this measure. Basically, ranked without Malik Mustafa, had the number 1 ranking in snaps per target, and also number 2, I should say, in snaps per reception allowed. That's pretty good. You've got, again, Jair Brown showing up there. So, again, another number that kind of supports him. Cam Curl after that, and then Jalen Thompson starts showing up there. One of the things I want to zoom in on Kobe Bryant for a second as we look at him from last season. His Havoc ranking from Field Vision Pro and Cody Alexander, they had him as a 26th ranked safety in the division, 11th in coverage. So the 11th, consider that every team has at least 2 starting safeties. You're talking about 64 starting safeties. Kobe Bryant ranked as a top 10, essentially, coverage safety in that regard. If we look at Julian Love, we're going to look at a couple of the major players here where they ranked. Julian Love ranked 9th overall. He ranked 8th in run defense and 18th in coverage. So you've got 2 guys that are toward the top 10 in the safety position in Seattle, which I think that's impressive. If you go to Budda Baker, I think Budda Baker is probably going to be the number 1 overall run defending safety, would be my guess. And he is number 1 run defending. He was the number 2 safety overall. I don't think there's any question that Budda Baker is the best safety in the division. If anyone wants to debate that, I'd love to hear your reasons why. He is aging. I mean, that's something, but he's still playing a lot of snaps and he's still very effective. If we look at Jalen Thompson, I think this guy is a pretty good safety, but he does not show up in the advanced metrics that well. So he's 42nd in the Havoc rating and 47th in coverage, 50th in run defense. So Jalen Thompson did not have a good year last year. If we look back to 2023, I'm curious. Yeah, he was the 7th ranked safety in 2023. So if I look at 2022, 33rd. So 2024 was not a great year for Jalen Thompson. And so maybe there's something going on there, but this is a guy I would have expected to be like top 20 kind of player. He ranks 42nd, at least in this number. If we look at, let's go to Cam Kitchen and Cam Curl. Let's start with Cam Curl. If we look at Cam Curl here for a second, he is 55th in his grade, his rating for Field Vision Pro, 74th in coverage, 53rd in run defense. So this confirms a little bit more that the top right was where you wanted to be looking for that one chart I mentioned. If you look at Cam Kinchins, who was the other starting safety there, he rated 64th, 28th in coverage, 103rd in run defense. So the safeties for the Rams, it's going to be hard for them to be anywhere but last, given where they are. But we'll keep looking at those groups. Let's look at Jair Brown. So Jair Brown is such an interesting one because he's a guy that shows up pretty well in the advanced metrics. He shows up pretty well in the advanced metrics. They have him as the 31st graded safety overall, 16th in coverage, which is good. 51st in run defense, which is not great. And then if you look at who would be their next safety, I mean, if Malik Mustafa, just so we have that data, if Malik Mustafa was playing and healthy, I'm guessing he's a top 20 guy. Oh, 36th. That's lower than I would have guessed. 23rd in run defense, 43rd in coverage. If we go to the next guy for the 49ers, if it's not Malik Mustafa, assuming he's not there, it's going to either be Jason Pinnock or Richie Grant. And so let's look at Richie Grant, who played for the Falcons last year. And wow, 122nd ranked safety, 105th in coverage. Yikes. Jason Pinnock was the other free agent that they signed from the Giants. He was the 77th graded safety, 108th in coverage, 74th in run defense, first in pass rush. That's interesting. But that's a pretty sorry showing, honestly, for the 49ers safety room. So you go back and again, you look at Julian Love. He was the 9th graded safety, at least by this metric. And you look at Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant was the 26th, but 11th overall in coverage. By this, you would say that the Seahawks have a better safety room than the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not sure I can get there yet. So let's keep looking. I'm going to look a little bit more at some PFF data. And we will see what we find as we look into this a bit more. So forced incompletion percentage is a number that we can get from PFF. And we'll look at guys that at least got some snaps. All right. So here is a guy showing up that, again, I think is underrated. D'Adrian Taylor Demerson, the rookie last year for the Cardinals, was number 1 in the NFL among safeties in forced incompletion percentage at 21%. That's very good. He's up there with like CJ Gardner-Johnson and Kalen Bullock. Jair Brown tied for 5th at 19% forced incompletion. So that's pretty good. Cam Curl is up there at 10th. Malik Mustafa tied at 10th with Cam Curl. Then you get on down the list. Julian Love would be 23rd. So, I mean, percentage-wise, you're talking about almost imperceptible difference. He has 14% forced incompletion rate. Mustafa is like 17. So not a huge difference between Curl, Mustafa, and Julian Love. Kobe Bryant, similar, just a little bit, hit 12%. As far as, again, pass breakups, Julian Love second in the NFL among safeties in pass breakups. Cam Curl was 5th. And Jair Brown was 11th. Now, I want to get back to Kobe Bryant a little bit because that makes this a little bit more complicated in that Kobe Bryant only started playing as a starter in week 7. So one of the things I want to do is I want to look at some of these coverage grades from week 7 on. All right. So we're going to look from week 7 on to have a little bit more apples to apples. And I'm not going to include week 18 just because I think a lot of those games were meaningless. So set weeks 7 through 17. So the number 1 graded safety, this is just overall coverage grade for safeties during that time. Kyle Hamilton, 89.8 grade. Kirby Joseph, 89.2. CJ Gardner-Johnson, 88.8. Justin Reed of the Chiefs, 84.3. So I know people like crap on PFF grades, but like that meets my eye test. Like those were some of the best safeties in football last year. Jerwin James, 82.0. Jimmy Ward. So like a lot of good safeties. Jesse Bates is up there. All right. Now, the top NFC West safety during this time was Cam Kitchens, had a 73.5 grade. That's interesting. And Cam Curl had a 71.8 grade. So those two guys, 2 of the Rams safeties had the highest grades. Then it's Jair Brown at 71.4. Then Budda Baker, 69.3. Then Jalen Thompson at 69. He and Budda Baker are essentially the same. And Julian Love and Kobe Bryant were essentially the same, down at 67 and 66 grades. So at least over this time, the Seahawks group was the worst of the groups, of the duos for the starters. So, I mean, this is interesting looking at this. If we look at forced incompletion, we look at pass breakups over that time. Cam Curl was number 1. Julian Love was number 2. Kobe Bryant was number 3. If you look at interceptions over that period of time, Cam Kitchens, number 1. Jalen McCullough of the Rams, number 2, actually tied with Kobe Bryant for number 2 with 3. So the Rams are like, they're moving up. Like, they're moving up the charts here, for sure. And I don't love the NFL passer rating as a evaluator, but I'm just going to kind of take a look at it out of curiosity. Yeah, I don't know if I love that one. Let's take a look at some other metrics that we've got here on PFF for defense. So we looked at coverage. Let's look at run defense for safeties. And this is interesting. I'm looking again just from week 7 to 17 for this time period. Jesse Bates was the number 1 run defending safety over this time. Kyle Hamilton, Taylor Rapp, Julian Love was the third best safety, at least over this period of time, in run defense, which I don't know that a lot of people would give him credit for. He was higher than Derwin James over that time. Budda Baker was 17th. He had a 78 grade, where Julian Love was 86. Then you've got Kobe Bryant at 22nd. So he was actually a pretty darn good run defender over this time. If you look at stop rate, percentage of snaps that resulted in a stop, Budda Baker was number 1 over this period of time. Yeah, and then you go way down the list. Julian Love would be number 2, but it's a pretty distant number 2. So here's another one. Average depth of tackle. This is an interesting one. The closer the line of scrimmage, the better. Jair Brown was number 1 among this group. Budda Baker was number 2. This is a little bit more mucky than I would have expected it to be honest. It really is a little bit more mucky. So let's just look at overall PFF grades for safeties, and we're going to go across. We'll go across the whole season for this one. If we just look at, and this is just another input, it's not the decider, but it's just another input. Julian Love was the 6th highest graded safety in the NFL last year, at least by PFF standards. He was 2nd in the NFL in run defense and 9th in coverage. So Julian Love, at least by PFF grade standards, was the best safety in the NFC West last year. After him, Budda Baker was the 2nd best. He had the 10th highest grade overall among safeties. After that, D'Adrian Taylor Demerson shows up at 15th, 75.5 grade. He only had 258 snaps, but played pretty well for the Cardinals. Kobe Bryant, 23rd overall, and would have been 4th among safeties in the NFC West. Jalen Thompson, 34th. Cam Kitchens all the way down at 38th. So yeah, man, let's go back and look through this again. So it is confusing. It's confusing. I got to say, looking at this, I want to look at it one more time from a Field Vision Pro perspective, and I want to look back at the EPA versus success rate numbers again. I think it's pretty easy to say number 1, honestly. I think as high as I am on Nicky Manwari and what he can provide, and I love the Seahawks safety depth, and I think Kobe Bryant and Julian Love are a really good starting duo. Budda Baker is, to me, the best safety in the division, and Jalen Thompson has been one of the best safeties in the past. I know he had some injuries last year. I think Adrian Taylor Demerson played really well. So they already have a 3 safety room. That's pretty good. Having at least 3 good safeties and the best safety for me makes the Cardinals number 1. I end up with the Seahawks number 2. I end up with the hard part is the Rams and 49ers. I think with the injury to Malik Mustafa, Rams number 3, 49ers number 4. I think I feel good about that. Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, 49ers for the safety room. Let me know where you guys are. Where do you think, how would you rate it differently than where I am? And then let's look at what PFF has for their top 32 rankings. This is not their grades based. It's just their top 32 safeties by their estimation. And the top safety in the NFC West is Budda Baker, 8th overall. They said he put together arguably the best year of his career in his last season. He was especially productive against the run, earned a positive grade on 11% of run plays, his highest rate since his rookie season. So he doesn't show signs of really slowing down. Julian Love would be the second highest graded safety in the division. Love's play significantly improved under Mike McDonald. Career high grade and ranked 7th among safeties. His 89.5 PFF run day grade ranks 2nd at the position 2. So I think you could make the case that Julian Love should be higher than 11th, but he's 11th and he's the 2nd graded safety in the division. After that, where do we get? We get Cam Kitchens. Interesting. They've got Cam Kitchens at 20th. He recorded 2 of the top 40 safety performances of the season. Those were a 92 grade in week 11 and an 87 grade in week 9. Interesting. You look at after that, Jalen Thompson was 25th. So Thompson's been very consistent, has not necessarily stood out, but he's been dependable. Cam Curl is the next one on their list at 26. So he's right behind Jalen Thompson. And Kobe Bryant makes it at 32nd. Bryant spent most of his time lining up deep, lining up 668 snaps at free safety. He earned career high PFF grades and ranked 22nd among safeties with a 72.8 overall grade. So they have Kobe Bryant lower. I'm not sure I understand why they have him at 32nd. I'm not sure I agree with that. Let's take a look at Mike Clay's safety rankings. And as we look through his, again, 1 to 10 is how he ranks. And for the Rams, he gives the Rams room a 6, 10 being best. He gives the Cardinals a 9. Which makes sense. He gives the 49ers a 3. Yee. Not good. He gives the Seahawks a 6. So he has the Rams and the Seahawks tied. I don't see that. I just don't. I think Julian Love is clearly the second best safety in the division, and Kobe Bryant is essentially as good as anyone that plays safety for the Rams. And you've got Nick Eamon-Worry. I think the Seahawks are clearly better than the Rams at safety, but he has them tied. So it's not like this huge disparity. And the 49ers last, and that's what I had the 49ers. So Mike Clay and I see it similarly. Let me take a look and see. Here's our Cardinals fan, Steve Holler says, Jake Ellenbogen says the Rams are the best and have 4 starting safeties. Really? Well, I mean, Quentin Lake counts you can count him as a safety, but he's their nickel. You can't double count him. I do feel like the Rams have like a decent safety room. I don't think it's terrible. Jalen McCullough was better than I realized last year. But no, for me, it's pretty clearly, I think you got to go Cardinals first. And I think the Seahawks to me are very clearly second. The Rams have some interesting upside, but I don't know that I could really put them in the same categories where the Seahawks are quite yet. All right. Looking through to see if there's any other items in chat or super chats. Appreciate everybody who's tuned in. If you haven't already given the show a like and click subscribe, now is a great time to do that. We have a question from The Truth As I Know It. Says, Love or Kobe was ranked as the 32nd safety last year. Did I hear that right? Yes. Kobe Bryant by PFF in their rankings was 32nd. Kobe Bryant was 32nd. He was much higher in their grades, but they have him at 32nd. So yeah, this is an interesting group, and this gives the Cardinals their first place finish in this ranked series. It gives the 49ers their fourth last place finish, which now ties them with the Cardinals for the most last place finishes among the teams in the division. The Seahawks rank second, and the Seahawks have ranked first or second in now seven different position groups. And there's obviously bias with me being more familiar with the Seahawks and a Seahawks fan as it is, but I try to be as objective as possible. And I could absolutely debate some of these, but I think we'll see how this ends up once we're done with the quarterback room, which I can guarantee you the Seahawks are not going to finish first. Frankly, they're probably not going to finish second in that one either. And we'll go from there. But really cool to see. Make sure if you haven't already, go off and get yourself a pair of JK boots, jkboots.com. The link is in the description of the video. Use code HawkBlogger, gets you $75 off. $75 off the best pair of boots you'll ever own, handmade, hand-stitched by a family-owned company in Spokane. And when you use code HawkBlogger, you get the $75 off, and $15 is donated to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation, who makes sure that our Northwest Forest firefighters are equipped to protect themselves and our forest and keep the Northwest beautiful. So do yourself a favor and the Northwest a favor. Get yourself some JK boots. Use code HawkBlogger. And make sure as well that you go to patreon.com/HawkBlogger. There are 2 spots left. Two spots left in Ring of Honor. If you want to be there for the steak dinner that I'll be taking you to the Friday before the season opener against the 49ers. Evan Hill will be at the dinner. Dana O'Gorman will be at the dinner. Might be some other folks there, as well as the other Ring of Honor members. There are only 2 slots left. So patreon.com/HawkBlogger. Get it while it's hot. There are only a couple spots remaining. Would love to have you. I would love to celebrate the start of the season with you. So head on over there. All right, everybody, that'll do it for this episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Make sure to keep the bell clicked because you don't know when I'm going to go live the next few days with me adjusting to this new schedule. But appreciate your patience and flexibility. Until I see you next, this has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, y'all.